Today we're going to talk about using the Yodlee API outside of the sandbox, and to do that we'll introduce a technology called JSON Web Tokens, or JWTs. Here's what we will do. Discover how Yodlee authenticates and authorizes requests, learn about JSON Web Tokens, write a script to generate tokens in Node.js, and learn how to use Postman to access the Yodlee API. In the Get Started with Yodlee API video, we used the API reference page on the Yodlee dev portal to make requests like get providers and get accounts. But there are things happening behind the scenes that you need to know about before we can get started writing your own app. Let's get started by figuring out how to make requests outside of the dev portal. Specifically, let's try to get a user's linked accounts with an HTTP request like get accounts. To do this, we're going to use a tool called Postman. You can get Postman from getpostman.com. It's a great tool for API development and API testing. Click download the app and you should be good to go. I already have the app installed, so I'm going to launch it. There we go. Well, what I want to do is I want to get accounts. So we're going to have in here accounts, and we need the whole URL. So let's get that from the API dashboard. I'll head there now. And this is the base URL right here. I'll copy this in and click send. It's not going to work, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. Excellent. We get an error message, authorization headers missing. In order to understand what this means, you need to go to the Getting Started with JWTs under the Yodlee documentation. You'll see in the first paragraph that Yodlee uses JSON Web Tokens for authentication and authorization. To put this in context, below there's a more detailed sample request for get accounts. Let's scroll down. Here's the get for the accounts. We're getting accounts from the sandbox, and we have an extra header for authorization. This header. It's of the type bearer with a long string, that's bearer, with a long string next to it. This, which is a bearer token. This kind of token is a JSON Web Token, or JWT. To learn more about JSON Web Tokens, it's good to go to JWT.io. Let's go now. It's a site hosted by Auth0, but it's a great reference for learning about JWTs and even debugging tokens. The introduction page is an excellent resource to learn some details. Let's head there now, introduction. And make sure to check this out. It tells you all about JSON Web Tokens. But what's really important is on the home page here. This is the debugger, and it has a JSON Web Token on the left and the decoded token on the right. And you'll see that the token is comprised of three parts: the header in red, the payload in purple, and the signature in blue. What's interesting is if you change any one part of the token, like maybe changing the payload, the token becomes invalid, which means you can trust it. Another thing of note is Yodlee uses two types of JSON Web Tokens, an application token and a user token. This is explained on the page we were just on about using JSON Web Tokens. And if you scroll down, we can see right here where it describes an application token and a user token. An application token is used to access resources that are not user specific, and a user token is used to access resources that are user specific. What I want to do now is write a script to generate JSON Web Tokens using Node and an NPM library called JSON Web Tokens. I'll show you it now. It's right here. It's very easy to use. We do an NPM install JSON Web Token, and the usage is very simple. You require it, and then you call sign to create a new token. Although this is more like what we're going to need. We have a private key, and we're going to create a token with our payload, the private key, and setting the algorithm. Let's get started by creating a node project called JWT Generate. I'll go to my terminal, and I'll make the directory. CD in there. And scaffold out an empty node project with npm init-y, and we're on our way. So our first step is to install the library, and I'm going to touch a file called generate.js. Let's open that script up and generate in my editor, and this is the directory. our node modules, our package.json, and our empty script. Excellent. So let's see how to use this library. We'll head back, and it looks like we do something like this. I'm going to copy that, paste it in there, and then I'll console.log out the token that we create. So just so you know, first we're requiring the package via require, and then we're just calling sign. Let's see if it works. So I'm going to type node generate.js, and we have a JSON Web Token. Now, this token is not valid for Yodlee's APIs. Luckily, we don't have to write much code at all because there's a Node.js script right on the site, on the Yodlee dev portal, that is. I'm going to head there now. And on the using JSON Web Tokens page, if we scroll down, first there's code for generating a application token. And next, here's the code for creating a user token. So I'm going to copy that and just paste it in. Let me walk you through some of what's going on here. At the end of the day, we do just call JWT.sign. What's important though is that we don't need path in this case. We don't need strict. Is that we require FS because we need it to read in our private key. Next, we create a payload object, which is a very simple object. And we create another object for signature options or sign options. The payload object is comprised of your .iss or the issuer ID. It's also comprised of the issue.time, which is just now, and the expiry time, which is now plus 30 minutes. Last is the payload.sub, which is actually subject, and in this case, the username. So two things we need is our issue ID or my issue ID and a valid username. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that now from the dev portal API dashboard. And this is my issue ID. I'm going to copy this. And this will change at some point. So please don't use my issue ID. And I'm going to paste that in. Next, I'm going to grab one of my test users. I'm going to grab test user 1. Paste that in. Next, we need to, it's looking for a private key or a .pem file. Let's just call this private key.pem. And I actually have a copy of this. Here we go. Copy that. And I'm going to create a file called private key.pem. And there we go. And we got it. I'm going to kill this buffer and head back to the terminal and see if we can generate another token. Excellent. This looks more like the kind of token we need. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in my pasteboard with pb copy, and I'm going to head back to Postman. And now we need to set some headers. More specifically, we need to set the authorization headers. The type is actually bearer token, and our token is the one we just generated. We still need some extra parameters, but let's see what we need. API version header is missing. Let's set that. So it's going to be API version. It happens to be 1.1 right now. And I'm also going to set the content type, which is application/JSON. And let's go to WAC. Send. And excellent. We have our users' accounts, linked accounts. And there's quite a bit here, as you can see. We can use the same token to make requests for the transactions endpoint. I'll do that. And we have a few transactions here. Excellent. In this video, we learned about using the Yodlee API outside of the sandbox. We also learned about JSON Web Tokens or JWTs, and we built a small project to generate JSON Web Tokens. You can get a copy of the script on our GitHub repository. It's github.com/Yodlee, and this is available under the JWT repository. We not only have Node, but we've got libraries written in Java, C#, Python, Ruby, and PHP. If you want to know more about JSON Web Tokens, you can definitely read more on the using web tokens and getting started with JWT and Fastlink on the dev portal. Also be sure to check out the JWT.io site. This debugger is excellent and the introduction is full of information. And if you're interested in learning more about using Postman to test Yodlee's APIs, there's an entire collection we set up, which is pretty much drag and drop. Postman 101 for Yodlee's APIs, right there. Make sure to check out our next video where we will introduce Yodlee Fastlink. See you there.